கழகத்தின் 2019 ஆண்டிற்கான இசை வேள்வி பிரம்மாண்டமாக நிறைவு பெற்றது. இசையால் வசமாக இதயம் எது என்று சொல்வார்கள். அந்த வகையில் எங்களை இசை மழையில் நனைய வைத்து வசமாக்கிய இளம் கலைஞர் வித்வான் சித் ஸ்ரீராம் இன்று எங்களுடன் நேர்காணல் செய்ய இருக்கின்றார். வணக்கம் சித் ஸ்ரீராம்.
Vanakkam, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Thanks for that beautiful introduction.
That's okay. So would you like to give us a few words about how your Carnatic music journey started with your mother, Lata Sriram?
Yeah, so I was born in Chennai in 1990, and then my family moved to the States, to California in 91. And my mother is a Carnatic musician, and my grandfather, her father, was also a Carnatic musician and a film composer and arranger. So it just kind of ran in the family, and in 92 she started her Carnatic music school in California. And I think for her it was her way of holding on strong to her roots and her culture in a new place, in a foreign place. And around that same time, my parents both realized I had this deep affinity for music, because I think I started singing like very early on. So at 3 years old, my mom started teaching me.
Wow, that's amazing.
And she also put me on stage for the first time when I was 3, like later on that year. And I think they thought I was going to be like nervous or whatever, but I loved it. I loved the attention. I really liked being on stage. So I guess like what started then was just this journey that blossomed at different points in my life. And at first, like any kid, I didn't have like much patience, and my mind generally races a lot. So like, and that's how I've been since I was young. So it was hard to like sit me down and get me to practice and whatnot. But my parents were very strict. My mom, I remember especially early on, like if I would make a mistake in a kriti or something, she'd make me repeat the whole thing again. And I remember one time specifically, it was like, I was at the Charano of the song, almost done, and I made a mistake, and it was like,
You had to start all over again.
And that's one time I remember singing like 20-25 times that one song. Excuse me. But that kind of laid the foundation for me really taking this passion of mine and putting it to work and turning it into something much greater than just a hobby or something I loved. It kind of consumed my whole life later on. So, yeah.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing.
Actually, it's really great, the two things that you mentioned, I think, are perseverance and determination.
Sure.
And a lot of the people who attended tonight's concert, I'm sure you noticed from the noises, was a lot of youngsters.
Sure.
And is there something that you might want to share with them about maybe the voice culture, the exercises that you've kind of done, which can be relevant to them?
100%. Well, yeah, even before that, I think it was really amazing to see that many young people at a Carnatic concert staying for the whole 3 hours. And that's like a trend I've been seeing happening recently at my concerts, and it's really heartening because I think Carnatic music is actually a very engaging form, a really dynamic form that anyone can relate to on many different levels. So seeing that was great. In terms of, I guess, what advice or thoughts I'd have, my mother was always really big on open-throated singing, like really opening my mouth and letting my whole voice be heard from a young age. So because she kind of like instilled that in me from the age of 3 to 5, it became kind of like a cornerstone to my music, really kind of believing in my own voice and using the whole thing and with courage, you know, and not shying away from singing loudly and letting my voice soar. So for those kind of, you know, the way I developed that every morning since I was a kid, about 45 minutes singing Akadam, like just exercises, voice exercises, and that's always been like a necessary thing. So that's one. And then 2, just breathing. And as vocalists, what's interesting is our instrument is within our body, which is a bit fickle because, you know, the body's always going through so many changes depending on what climate you're in, like what you're eating, it can change. So what I realized is very important is like our body's made up of cavities or just open spaces. So really kind of like taking deep breaths, filling in your diaphragm and opening up, like not sitting like this, but posture being straight up. And also just being alert, so all the different cavities in your face or your chest can have air in them and let your voice resonate. But that's getting a little technical, I guess.
No, I still think that's super helpful.
It's really
Yeah.
necessary, I
Yeah.
think, because it's so easy as a vocalist to take your instrument for granted since
Yeah.
you're using it all the time. You're always speaking. It's not like another instrument where you take it out specifically to perform or to practice. It's just always in use. But keeping that in mind, the fact that it's also, I think, the greatest strength of a vocalist is the fact that it's a very, not to say another instrumentalist doesn't have a personal relationship with their instrument, but I think there's a certain level of deep personal connect, you know? So being aware of that, really taking care of your voice, exercising, that's something that people don't normally talk about as musicians, but it's important to be in like really good shape, or at least somewhat good shape, to be able to really use your voice to its fullest capacity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful advice for all the youngsters out
I
there.
hope so.
So do you have any plans of maybe coming out with like a Carnatic album anytime soon?
Yeah, I want to do it at some point. I think what's interesting about Carnatic music, and something I've really, at a younger age, I knew this subconsciously, and as I grew older, it's become more consciously clear to me, is it's a very interactive art form.
Definitely.
You know, even like today, what made the concert so much fun for me is interacting with my other musicians.
Yeah.
You know, having a lot of fun and like laughing a lot of the time, and then also the interaction between us and the audience is super important. I think when the most magical moments are when there's like such a connect amongst the musicians and with the audience that you feel like this buzzing energy almost kind of like transcend. I say all that to say, I think for me to do a Carnatic album, it'd have to be like a live concert and with that recorded,
Yeah.
because it's such a spontaneous energy that I don't know can necessarily be recreated in like a studio space without an audience. But I want to do it at some point.
Definitely be happy to have you in Sydney to do that.
Yeah, we'll do Sydney live next
Yeah,
time.
definitely.
Record it.
Lock that in.
Okay, so a controversial question.
Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah.
Carnatic or cinema?
Oh. That's not too
Not
controversial.
you can't be politically correct.
No. I think. Okay, honestly, it's not like, okay, so this is the way like I've structured my approach to music in my career, but Carnatic music is like the foundation. I look at it as a building or whatnot, you know, like that base foundation is super important, because without that nothing else can really grow on top of it. So Carnatic music has afforded me the knowledge, the vocabulary, like a spiritual connect to music. It's been my pathway to understanding everything musical, and it's the one form that has been with me since I was, really young. So my deep involvement with being immersed in Carnatic music is actually what even gave me the ability to be able to go into the film space. So I don't know if I could necessarily say one or the other, and I hope I'd never have to choose between the two.
That's true, yeah.
And like I've been asked many times, like, or not even asked, at the beginning of my career, people are like, oh, you're not going to be able to do both of them. You only have so many hours in the day, whatever. Yeah. But my kind of like, the way I've dealt with all that is my practice, all my kind of time in terms of like really just developing my craft, I do that by way of Carnatic music. So if I practice for about 2.5, 3 hours every day, then I know when I walk into a recording, my voice will do whatever I want it to do, because I put in that time with this very intricate and rigorous art form. They're both very beautiful in different ways. I love doing my cinema shows. The energy is completely different than this, just as spontaneous and just as, that's one thing. I think what also being involved in the film space and then my original music, those two spaces has afforded me is once I got a taste of what a really high energy show was, then I was able to take that same kind of thing and apply it to a Carnatic concert. Whereas like sometimes there's a certain reputation that some people have given Carnatic music, saying that it's a very cerebral art form, which it is. There's a lot of intellectual kind of thought that goes into it, but I think it's also very, very high energy at the same time. So long story short, I couldn't choose one or the other.
I did say you can't be politically correct, but no, but it's okay.
But
That's okay.
I explained the whole thing, so it's
No,
okay.
it's, I think that's why you've been so inspirational, Sid, because today we had a number of performers who have been in Sydney, who are trying their own things, who
Sure.
are collaborating with all these other people.
Sure.
And I think that's why you have that power for all of them to come down and to see how you're taking Carnatic music and
For
also
sure.
applying it in your cinematic music and vice versa.
Thank
and
you.
So I think that's a fair response.
Good. I'm glad I made the cut with that.
Yeah. But you're also experimenting with a few other genres at the moment.
Yeah.
I know that you've got a few albums coming out.
For sure. So Carnatic music started at 3, and it was kind of always happening. And it was my only real formal training. But when I was around probably 9, I just happened. My folks got me a little Walkman that had a radio on it. So I chanced upon the jazz station, the local jazz station, which then kind of opened my mind up to a whole world of R&B and blues and soul music, Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles and a bunch of artists like that. So that form also, and I became a self-taught soul R&B singer. I just kind of figured out how to vocalize in that way. So my experience with that form really then opened my mind up into a whole new world of music that kind of I went to college for music. I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, and because Carnatic music and R&B soul had kind of raised me in a way,
Yeah.
once I got there and I was in an environment where I could start creating my own music,
Yeah.
I really started working on figuring out how these two different worlds that are vastly different from each other but have some universal similarities, how they can start coming together and how I can bring them together in one space. And I think that is very representative of my own life, being someone that was born in India but grew up in the US.
Yeah.
I felt like the music that I was going to make and I was going to create had to really kind of make the same statement and just be an extension of who I am as a human being. So I started releasing my original music in 2010, just through YouTube and stuff like that, first through covers and then original music, and it's kind of come a long way since. Actually, the first music that I sent AR Sir was my own stuff. I'd sent him an email with my original music, and that's what he had heard first of mine, and that's
all
what I
it took.
sent.
That's all it took.
I mean, yeah, he responded to the email at first, and then I didn't hear from him for a whole year. So it was a great feeling even after that. It was dope. I mean, it was really cool. But yeah. So I just released my first full album that was self-produced. I released that in February of this year. It's titled Entropy, and I think that was the first album where I could say that these different influences of mine and everything, I was able to bring them together seamlessly. I don't think that especially as being a diaspora kid that grew up in the US, I used to think that there was this Indian part of me and then an American part of me, and they never mingle with each other. And what working on my own music, especially this last album, taught me is that they're all kind of swimming together. It's not two different categories necessarily. There's just a spectrum that makes us who we are. And it allowed me to really embrace the whole spectrum of my own identity and not try to hide parts of it in a certain context or really force certain aspects of myself in other contexts. So.
I think that would be an amazing thing that a lot of youngsters can take away from.
Sure.
I know a lot of youngsters here sort of go through the same thing, so definitely.
Yeah, I think identity crisis is definitely, and it's common and it's fair, we grow up away from the source of who we are sometimes, and that can be confusing, and I know there's many points in my childhood or even recently where I'm super confused about certain things. So I think for me it's been a blessing to be able to have music to ask these questions and get some answers through. So anyone that has the arts or anything that you're passionate in, I would encourage you to use that as your way to figure yourself out some more.
I think that really connects with what we do at Kamban Kazhagam, to be honest.
Sure, yeah.
Pranitha is actually born and raised here, and I mean, you can see her Tamil. So she's
it's great.
So this is pretty much like most of the people that we have in our community, and
Sure.
it definitely does help us connect with our identity. And
Sure.
as you said, it's something that we often battle with growing up, and it's been so great for us to have this forum, to have amazing musicians such as yourself,
Sure.
great orators, dancers, to be able to come and for us to share in their great knowledge. And that's why it's been such a privilege to have you as well.
For sure.
Dare I ask for an improv? Can you give us
that would be
so maybe if you could give us a bit of a Carnatic going on to jazz.
Okay, wow. A concert after a concert.
That's the thing about Kamban Kazhagam, we don't stop.
Okay, all right. Let me think about what I could do. Maybe I'll do like a little bit of a Carnatic piece going into something jazzy,
Okay.
going into a little bit of a film song.
Let's hear
anything.
it.
La, da, la, la, da, da, la, 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 na, na. Da 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 na 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 oh da da ಏನೋ ವಾನಿಲೆ ಮಾರಿದೆ ಮಣಿತುಳಿ போகுதே மார்பின் வேகம் கூடுதே மனமோ ஏதோ சொல்ல வார்த்தை தேடுதே கண்ணெல்லாம் நீயேதான் நிற்கின்றாய் விழியின் மேல் நான் கோபம் கொண்டேன் இமை மூடிடு என்றே நகரும் நொடிகள் கசையடி போலே முதுகின் மேலே விழுவதினாலே வரி வரி கவிதை தள்ளி போகாதே எனையும் தள்ளி போக சொல்லாதே இருவர் இதழும் மலர் எனும் முள்தானே தள்ளி போகாதே எனையும் தள்ளி போக சொல்லாதே இருவர் இதழும் மலர் எனும் முள்தானே தள்ளி போகாதே.
Oh, absolutely amazing. Yeah. It was wonderful to hear about your experience between Western music and that melding in with Carnatic music to build your identity. Who did you find as being your inspiration on this musical journey?
So many people. First with Carnatic music, I think my biggest inspiration will always be my mother. Just outside of her even being my mom, I think she's a very intuitive musician, and from her what I really learned was music is about connection, and about building that sense of trust and connection with whoever you're singing for, and not overthinking things. She really kind of instilled that in me, and she did it at such an early age that it just became like this thing that I know one thing that I'll always love is just being on stage and performing and connecting with people. That's one. Secondly, growing up, a few musicians that really kind of impacted my journey are Tim Krishna, Sanjay Subramaniam, and Artiste of Isai Velvi. With all three of them, I grew up in the U.S. and they'd come and tour, and I'd get to watch them perform. And there was just like this energy that they put forth. They were having so much fun on stage, and they again, obviously the technical side of it is super important, but you could see that they had such a mastery over that. They were just having a great time, and for me, it was really great as a kid because those were my formative years, like 10 to 12 years old, where these musicians made it super cool to be a Carnatic musician. And
And, you know, I've had a bunch of conversations, especially with Arunama. She's been a great mentor to me over the last 5 years. And something that she kind of has communicated both just by example, how she kind of performs, and also through conversation, is singing for everyone in the auditorium, you know, making sure you appeal to the person in the very last row. Because it just goes back to that fundamental principle that the reason that like we're here to perform and put forth the sonic energy that is music is to kind of make people feel something, whatever the genre is. That's what it comes down to. I think that's any artist or musician, their purpose is to inspire people to feel unearthed emotions that they maybe haven't felt in a while, or completely new emotions, whatever. And you know, I've seen the way that she's able to do that and really kind of build this sense of, again, trust and just a deep emotional connect with their audience, and that has really impacted the way I perform and also the way I approach music as a whole. I think it's I know what my goal is, you know, when I'm on stage. It's not to like show off or any of that. It's ultimately just to give people something that they can hold on to. So she's been huge in that way. Outside of Carnatic music, you know, my biggest influences are obviously Arthur. You know, his music has been the soundtrack to my life literally since I was a kid,
Definitely.
which is true for so many of us, you know. And then the fact that I actually got to meet him, I've said this before, but you know, a lot of times you idolize someone and you put them up on a pedestal and then you meet them in real life and it doesn't add up, or like you get let down. With him, it was like everything I expected and then way more. You know, he's truly just calling him a gem of a person doesn't even really do it justice. He's such a good soul, and he's so passionate about music. And just the other day I was in the studio with him and he was kind of like teaching me a melody I had to record. He started rattling the whole melody off in swarams. So like his like grasp of Carnatic music is also immense and very intuitive, you know. So in that way he provided me a way of understanding how my roots and my foundation could be applied in different contexts. And then, you know, just a bunch of other artists. I love like Radiohead and Kanye West and stuff like that. So, you know, it's like a melting pot of all these different influences.
I think we can definitely see that in all the music, which is so good. And I guess the last thing we want to ask is, how has it been being here in Australia? I know you didn't get to see any kangaroos, but that aside, has it been a great experience in Sydney and Melbourne?
It's been beautiful. This is my first time here, and everyone who has, you know, been kind of taking care of us has been so kind. The audiences in both places were amazing, and again, certain concerts you feel like there's a truly positive energy. It's not something that, you know, you can always say, oh, it's so nice, I felt so much love. You don't necessarily mean it, but I really felt it here for sure. On every single, especially, you know, what was really nice about the Sydney concert was I was able to see everyone in the audience because the house lights were kind of on.
Yeah,
That's good.
And that's my favorite because you can see people's eyes and whether they're lit up or not. And I think they were. I hope they were. But that there's such a warmth,
Yeah.
you know. And yeah, we were here for such a short stay. It's only been a few days, about a day and a half in East City, but it's given me a ton of reason to come back and see kangaroos, obviously. I just want to check out the city. I really like it. I like this. Sydney specifically reminds me of like San Francisco a little bit. I get the same vibe, and maybe it's just because y'all have been so great too. So.
We're
Yeah.
glad.
But no, it's been amazing, and furthermore, this has been my first Carnatic tour outside of India. So
Oh,
It's a
wow.
privilege.
so
Good
yeah.
vibe.
So it's been great. A special shout out to the musicians, Vidvans H.N. Bhaskar, who was on violin, Patri Satish Kumar on mridangam, and Sri Sundar Kumar on kanjila. These are all musicians that I've looked up to for a long time. You know, they're masters of their craft, and they give me something to aspire towards as well. So to be able to travel with them has been great, and special thanks to Jenna for bringing us out. Yeah, you know, we've been talking about this. My father manages me, and him and my dad have been talking for months now, and it's been nothing short of amazing. Yeah.
Oh, we're so glad to hear. I think all of Kamban Kazhagam would be very excited to hear that, and to have the privilege of hosting your first Carnatic tour outside of India. And so you're traveling quite a bit between India and California?
Yeah, I do this thing where I do like 6 to 8 months in one place, and then the remainder of the year in the other place. Now I'm going to be spending a little bit more time in Chennai. I just signed my first film as a music director, and
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's been amazing. I've been able to interact with Maniratnam sir is writing and producing the film, so the interaction with him has been a dream come true, honestly. He's another one of my heroes, and he's such a sharp, you know, his vision is incredible, and his grasp of music is immense. So that is keeping me in Chennai a lot. I'm going to be traveling here and there a little bit, but I think Chennai is going to be home base for the next like 6 to 7 months.
And we will definitely be watching that space.
Yeah, for sure.
Really hope that you come back to Sydney again for another tour.
I'm going to be back, hopefully next year.
Fantastic.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you guys.
Thank you
And
so
hats
much.
off to you guys and everything you guys do. I think it's amazing that the idea of instilling a deep sense of culture is really amazing. And I saw it all at work today, before the concert, and you know, during the announcements and everything. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Sid Sriram, நீங்கள் ஒரு முருக பக்தன் என்று நாங்கள் கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கின்றோம். சிட்னியிலும் ஒரு முருகன் கோயில் இருக்கு என்று நீங்கள் அறிந்திருப்பீர்கள். அந்த வகையில் நீங்கள் எங்களுக்கு ஒரு அற்புதமான முருகன் பாட்டை ஒன்று தாருங்கள்.
Sure. காந்தமாம் கதிர் காமம் கண்ணில்லோர் வேதாந்தமாம் காந்தமாம் கதிர் காமம் தன்னில்லோர் வேதாந்தமாம் சாந்தமாகி மனம் குவிழ்ந்து ஏகாந்தமான நிலை அளித்திடும் காந்தமாம் கதிர் காமம் தன்னில் ஓர் வேதாந்தமாம் ஓர் வேதாந்தமாம். ஸ்ருதிலயமுடன் துதி செய்பவர்க்கு அதி துரிதமகதி அளித்திடும் காந்தமாம் கதிர் காமம் தன்னில் ஓர் வேதாந்தமாம் ஓர் வேதாந்தமாம். நாவினில் ருச்சியே நவிந்திட தீருதல் பசியே நாவினில் ருச்சியே நவிந்திட தீருதல் பசியே அது பேரின்ப ருச்சியே பார்க்க கிடைத்த தப்பசியே ஆண்டவன் அருள் சேர சேர அன்பு பெருகுது ஏற ஏற ஆண்டவன் அருள் சேர சேர அன்பு பெருகுது ஏற ஏற கதிர் காமம் என்று கூற கூற கதிர் காமம் என்று கூற கூற கவலைகள் அடியோடு தீர செய்யுமாம் கருணை மாறி பெய்யுமாம் கண்டால் அவர் கருள் புரியுமாம் திருமுருகரூபம் காந்தமாம் கதிர் காமம் தன்னில் ஓர் வேதாந்தமாம். சாந்தமாகி மனம் குவிழ்ந்து ஏகாந்தமான நிலை அளித்திடும் காந்தமாம் கதிர் காமம் தன்னில் ஓர் வேதாந்தமாம் ஓர் வேதாந்தமாம்.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Sid, for transcending us with your fantastic music.
Thank you so much.
Not only during the performance, but even during this interview. I think it's been soulful. Thank you so much. And also on behalf of Kamban Kazhagam Australia, thank you to everyone who has supported us to bring this eminent artist along with all of the accompanying artists to Australia as part of our Isai Velvi 2019. It's been a great pleasure, and we're so thankful for all the support that we received tonight for a sold out show. கம்பன் கழகத்தின் சார்பில் மீண்டும் எங்கள் நன்றிகள். எங்களுடைய இசை வேள்வி 2019 மிகவும் அழகாக நாங்கள் மேடையேற்றுவதற்கு உங்கள் முயற்சிக்கும் உங்கள் ஆதரவுக்கும் எங்கள் நன்றிகள். கம்பன் புகழ் பாடி கனி தமிழ் வளர்ப்போம். நன்றி.
That's fine. அப்படியே கண்டினியூ பண்ணுமா?
Yeah. நான் அரசியலுக்கு ரெடி ஆயிட்டேன்.
I gave him the whole story yesterday. So
Now I really appreciate the foundation what they have given me. Is what brought
he's
me.
giving me my answer. This is easy for me.